Hello, and welcome. And thank you, Nicholas, to also server for the $2 donor. Thank you. The first one is my sweat friend said he was the scariest thing like the dog inside next to me, but if he was like
The notification sound from my phone broke through the quiet hum of my apartment's air conditioning. I glanced at the screen to see Jake's name lighting up with a text message. We've been friends since college, bonding over late-night study sessions and shared complaints about our professors. Even after graduation, we maintained our friendship through regular hangouts and weekend adventures around the city. Hey man, you free tonight? Could use some company appeared on my screen in his typical casual style.
yeah.
Jake rarely reached out like this unless something was bothering him, so I quickly typed back that he should come over whenever he wanted. Within 20 minutes, I heard his familiar knock at my door. When I opened it, Jake stood there looking slightly disheveled, his usually perfectly styled brown hair a bit messy and his green eyes carrying a weight I hadn't seen before. He wore his favorite black t-shirt and jeans, but something about his posture seemed different, more uncertain than his usual confident demeanor. Thanks for letting me come over on short notice, he said, stepping inside and immediately gravitating toward my couch. I've been thinking about some stuff lately and needed to talk to someone I trust. I grabbed us both beers from the refrigerator and settled into my usual spot on the opposite end of the couch. Jake had always been the type to work through his thoughts out loud, whether it was about work stress, family drama, or relationship troubles. Over the years, I'd become his unofficial sounding board for whatever was weighing on his mind.
Really?
What's going on? I asked, noting how he seemed to be choosing his words carefully before speaking. Jake took a long sip of his beer and stared at the coffee table for a moment. You know how I've always been pretty straightforward about things, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've never really questioned who I am or what I want. I nodded, remembering how Jake had always seemed so sure of himself in every aspect of life. He'd dated several women over the years, had serious relationships,
Really?
and never seemed to struggle with uncertainty the way some people do.
Really?
Well, lately I've been having these thoughts, he continued, his voice dropping slightly, and I can't seem to shake them or figure out what they mean. The way he was speaking, with such careful consideration of each word, made me pay closer attention. Jake wasn't typically one to overthink things or get lost in self-reflection. He was usually the friend who made quick decisions and moved forward without looking back. What kind of thoughts? I asked gently, sensing this conversation was heading somewhere significant. Jake set his beer down and turned to face me more directly. Thoughts about guys. About what it might be like to be with a guy instead of always being with women. The admission hung in the air between us. I could see the vulnerability in his expression, the way his usual confidence had been replaced by genuine uncertainty and maybe even fear about what he was sharing. That's not necessarily unusual, I said carefully. Lots of people have questions about sexuality at different points in their lives. It doesn't have to mean anything specific unless you want it to. But that's just it, Jake said, running his hand through his hair. I think I do want it to mean something.
Ooh.
I think these thoughts are trying to tell me something about myself that I've been ignoring or pushing down for a long time. I could hear the internal struggle in his voice. Jake had always been someone who prided himself on knowing exactly who he was and what he wanted.
Yeah.
This kind of self-questioning was clearly uncomfortable territory for him. Have you thought about maybe exploring these feelings? I asked. There's no pressure to label anything or make any big declarations. Sometimes the only way to understand something is to
Yeah.
experience it. Jake looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Actually, that's kind of why I came over tonight. I've been thinking about this for weeks, and I
Really?
keep coming back to the same conclusion, which is, I trust you more than anyone else in my life, he said simply. And if I'm going to figure this out, I'd rather do it with someone who cares about me as a person, not just someone random I might meet at a bar or through an app. The
Really?
implications of what he was saying began to settle in my mind. I'd known Jake was straight for as long as I'd known him, had listened to him talk about his relationships with women, had even helped him through breakups and dating challenges. But here he was, suggesting something that would fundamentally change the dynamic between us.
Really?
Jake, I said slowly, are you asking what I think you're asking? He met my eyes directly for the first time since arriving. I'm asking if you'd be willing to help me figure this out. I know it's a lot to ask, and I know it could make things weird between us. But I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't think of anyone else I'd rather explore this with. I felt a mix of emotions washing over me. Surprise, certainly, but also a strange sense of anticipation that I hadn't expected. Jake and I had always had a close friendship, but I'd never allowed myself to think of him in any other way, knowing he was straight and not wanting to complicate our relationship. I need you to be really sure about this, I said, because once we cross that line, we can't uncross it. Our friendship will be different no matter what happens. I
Could be.
know,
Yes.
Jake replied without hesitation. I've thought about that too. But I've also thought about what it would mean to spend the rest of my life wondering about this part of myself. I don't want to
Yep.
be 80 years old
You're
and
also
still carrying around these questions. There was something compelling about his honesty, about the way he was willing to risk our friendship for the sake of understanding himself better.
Oh,
It took courage to admit uncertainty about something as fundamental as sexuality,
really?
especially for someone who had always seemed so sure of everything. Okay, I said finally. But we need to talk about boundaries and expectations. This isn't just about physical curiosity. If we do this, we're potentially changing everything about how we relate to each other. Jake nodded seriously. I understand that. And I want you to know that whatever happens, I value our friendship too much to let this ruin it. But I also can't keep pretending these feelings don't exist. We spent the next
True.
hour talking through what this might mean, what we were both comfortable with, and how we wanted to approach the situation. Jake was surprisingly thoughtful about the emotional implications, acknowledging that physical exploration often comes with unexpected feelings and complications. I don't want you to think I'm using you as some kind of experiment, he said at one point. This isn't about satisfying idle curiosity. These feelings I've been having, they're specifically about you. That admission caught me off guard. About me? Yeah, Jake said, looking
Oh,
slightly embarrassed.
yeah.
I mean, at first I thought it was just general curiosity about men. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that when I imagine being with a guy, it's always you I'm thinking about. The weight of
Really?
that confession settled between us. This wasn't just about Jake questioning his sexuality in abstract terms. He was telling me that I had become the focus of these new feelings he was experiencing. How long have you been thinking about me that way? I asked. Jake considered the question carefully. Honestly, probably longer than I've been willing to admit to myself. There have been moments over the years where I've caught myself looking at you differently or feeling something that I couldn't quite name, but I always pushed it aside because I thought I knew who I was. I found myself studying his face as he spoke, noticing details I'd
Yeah.
somehow overlooked before. The way his eyes crinkled slightly when he was being serious, the
Really?
strong line of his jaw, the way he unconsciously bit his lower lip when he was nervous. So what do you want to do
Really?
about it? I asked. Jake moved closer on the couch, closing some of the distance between us.
Ooh.
I want to see what it feels like to kiss you. I want to know if the reality
Oh
matches what I've been
my.
imagining.
Oh
The
my.
directness of his answer sent a jolt through me. We were really going to do this. After years of friendship, we were about to cross into completely uncharted territory.
Yeah.
Are you
Indeed.
nervous? I asked. Terrified, Jake admitted with a small laugh, but also more curious than I've ever been about anything in my life. I shifted on the couch so that we were facing each other more directly. Jake's breathing had become slightly more rapid, and I could see the anticipation and nervousness warring in his expression. We can stop anytime, I reminded him. If it doesn't feel right or if you change your mind, we just stop. I know, he said, but I don't think I'm going to want to stop. The space between us seemed to shrink without either of us consciously moving. I could
Really?
smell his cologne, something woody and familiar that I'd never really noticed before in this
Wow.
context. His eyes kept flickering between my eyes and my lips, and I realized I was doing the same thing. Jake, I said softly. Yeah, I'm going to kiss you now. Okay, he whispered. When our lips met, it was gentle at first, tentative and exploratory. Jake's lips were softer than I'd expected, and he tasted faintly of the beer we'd been drinking. I felt him tense slightly at the initial contact, then gradually relax as the kiss continued. After a few moments, we separated slightly, both of us breathing a little harder than before. How was that? I asked. Jake's eyes were still closed, and when he opened them, there was something different in his expression. Different than I expected, he said. But good different. Really good different.
Really
Different how?
different.
With women, kissing has always felt like a step towards something else, Jake
Really?
explained. Like it was nice, but it was really just the beginning of what I actually wanted. But that kiss felt like something I could do for hours and be completely satisfied. He leaned in for another kiss, this one more confident and purposeful. I felt his hand come up to cup the side of my face, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. The kiss deepened naturally, and I could feel some of his nervousness melting away. When we broke apart again, Jake rested his forehead against mine. I think I'm starting to understand something about myself that I've been missing for a long time. What's that? I think maybe the reason none of my relationships with women ever felt completely right wasn't because there was something wrong with them or with me individually. Maybe it was because I was trying to force myself into something that wasn't actually what I wanted. The vulnerability in his admission was striking. Jake had always
Wow.
seemed so confident in his romantic relationships, but here he was acknowledging that something fundamental had been missing. That must
Really?
be a scary realization, I
What's missing?
said. It is, Jake agreed. But it's also kind of liberating. Like maybe I don't have to keep trying to make something work that was never going to work in the first place. We kissed again, and this time Jake's hands found their way to my waist, pulling me closer. I could feel the warmth of his body against mine, solid and familiar yet completely new at the same time. His kisses were becoming more urgent, more exploratory. Is this okay? He asked between kisses. More than okay, I assured him. Jake's hands began to roam more freely, tracing the contours of my shoulders and back. I could feel his heartbeat where our chests pressed together, rapid and strong. Every touch seemed to surprise him, as if he was discovering something he'd never known he wanted. I can't believe how right this feels, he murmured against my neck. I keep waiting for it to feel wrong or weird, but it just keeps feeling more and more right. I pulled back slightly to look at him. His pupils were dilated, his lips slightly swollen from kissing, and there was a flush across his cheekbones that I'd never seen before.
Really?
You don't have to analyze it so much, I told him. Sometimes things just feel right because they are right. Is that what this is? Jake asked. Something that's right? I don't know, I said honestly.
No.
But I know it feels good, and I know we both want it. Maybe that's enough for now. Jake nodded and pulled me closer again. This time when we kissed, there was less hesitation and more passion. I could feel him letting go of whatever mental barriers had been holding him back, allowing himself to simply experience what was happening between us. His hands found the hem of my shirt, and he looked at me questioningly. I nodded, and he slowly lifted the fabric over my head. For a moment, he just looked at me, his eyes taking in details as if he was seeing me for the first time.
Wow.
You're beautiful,
Really?
he said quietly, and something in his voice made it clear that this wasn't just a casual compliment. He seemed genuinely moved by what he was seeing and feeling. So are you, I replied, reaching for the bottom of his shirt. When Jake's shirt came off, I took a moment to appreciate the sight of him. I'd seen him shirtless before at the beach or the pool, but this was entirely different. Now I was allowed to look, allowed to touch, allowed to appreciate the broad expanse of his chest and the way his muscles moved under his skin. I ran my hands across his chest, feeling the slight roughness of hair and the warmth of his skin. Jake's eyes fluttered closed at the contact, and he made a soft sound that went straight through me. That feels incredible, he said. I had no idea it could feel like that when someone touches me. Different from when women have touched you? Completely different, Jake
Wow.
confirmed. I
Really?
mean, it felt good before,
Really?
but this feels like something I've been craving without knowing it. We continued
Wow.
exploring each other's bodies with increasing confidence and desire. Jake seemed fascinated by every new sensation, every difference between this experience and what he was used to. His hands were everywhere, mapping the contours of my body with obvious appreciation and growing hunger. I want to touch you everywhere, he said, his voice rough with desire. I want to know what every part of you feels like. The intensity of his words and the heat in his eyes sent a shiver through me. This wasn't the tentative curiosity of someone just experimenting anymore. Jake was fully present in the moment, fully committed to what was happening between us. We moved together naturally, our bodies finding a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. Jake's kisses became more demanding, his touches more purposeful. I could feel his excitement building, matching my own. I never knew it could feel like this, Jake said
Really?
against my ear. I never knew I could want someone this much. You want me? I asked, needing to hear him say it clearly. God,
Oh,
yes,
my.
Jake replied without hesitation. I want you more than I've ever wanted anyone. I want
Wow.
all of you. The certainty in his voice was overwhelming. This
Really?
wasn't confusion or experimentation anymore. Jake knew exactly what he wanted, and he wanted me. We continued touching and kissing, our movements becoming more urgent and desperate. Jake's hands were shaking slightly, whether from nervousness or excitement, I couldn't tell. But his kisses were sure and hungry, leaving no doubt about his desire. Are you sure about this? I asked one more time, giving him a final opportunity to change his mind. Jake looked directly into my eyes, his gaze steady and determined. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I want this. I want you. I want to know what it feels like to be with you completely. Then let's go to my bedroom, I suggested. Jake nodded eagerly, and we made our way down the hallway, pausing several times to kiss against the wall or in the doorway. By the time we reached my bed, we were both breathing heavily and completely focused on each other. In the soft light of my bedroom, Jake looked even more beautiful than before. The shadows played across his skin, highlighting the planes and angles of his body in ways that made me want to touch and taste every inch of him. I can't believe we're really doing this, Jake said, sitting on the edge of my bed and pulling me closer to stand between his legs. Having second thoughts? I asked. No, Jake said firmly. The opposite. I'm having first thoughts. Real thoughts. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm about to do something that's completely authentic to who I really am. The weight of that statement wasn't lost on me. Jake wasn't just exploring his sexuality, he was discovering his authentic self. And
Really?
somehow, I had become part of that journey. We fell onto the bed together, our bodies intertwining naturally. Jake's skin was warm and smooth under my hands, and every touch seemed to elicit a response from him. He was incredibly responsive, reacting to even the lightest caress with soft sounds and subtle movements. "You feel so good," Jake murmured, his hands roaming across my back and shoulders. "Everything about this feels so right." We took our time, exploring and discovering, learning what made each other respond. Jake was an attentive and enthusiastic partner, clearly enjoying every new sensation and eager to reciprocate whatever pleasure he received. "I want to make you feel as good as you're making me feel," he said at one point, his voice husky with desire. "You already are," I assured him. "Just being here with you like this, seeing you discover this part of yourself, it's incredible." Jake's response was to kiss me even more passionately, pouring all of his newfound understanding of himself into the connection between us. I could feel his confidence growing with each passing moment, his touches becoming more sure and purposeful.
Really?
As the night progressed, we continued to explore and discover together.
Yeah.
Jake's initial nervousness had completely disappeared, replaced by a hunger and enthusiasm that was intoxicating. He
Wow,
seemed to
really?
approach each new experience with the same intensity and focus that he brought to everything else in his life. "I can't believe I waited so long to figure this out," Jake said during a quiet
Oh,
moment as we lay tangled together. "I feel like I've been living as half of myself for years." "You couldn't have known until you were ready to know," I replied,
yeah.
tracing patterns on his chest with my fingertip. "Some things can't be rushed." "Maybe," Jake agreed. "But I also think I was scared. It's easier to stick with what you know, even if it doesn't feel completely right, than to risk everything by admitting you might be wrong about something
Yeah,
fundamental."
yeah.
And now, Jake turned to face me fully, his eyes serious and clear. "Now I know I wasn't wrong to question things. I was wrong to ignore the questions for so long." We made love again, this time with even more passion and connection than before. Jake was completely present, completely engaged, giving himself over entirely to the experience and to me. Afterwards, we lay together in comfortable silence, processing what had happened between us. "So what happens now?" Jake asked eventually. It was the question I'd been wondering about too. We crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, shared an intimacy that would forever change our relationship. But I also knew that what we'd shared was too significant to dismiss as just a one-time exploration. "I don't know," I said honestly. "What do you want to happen?" Jake was quiet for a long moment,
Great.
clearly thinking through his answer carefully. "I want to see where this goes," he said finally. "I want to explore this part of myself more, and I want to do it with you. But I
Really?
also know that's a lot to ask." "Why would it be a lot to ask?" "Because you didn't sign up to be someone's sexual awakening," Jake said. "You didn't ask to be the person I figure myself out with.
Yeah,
And I don't want you to feel like you're just helping me through a phase." I appreciated his consideration, but I
yeah.
also knew that what had happened between us was more than just Jake exploring his sexuality. There had been genuine connection, real
Wow.
chemistry and mutual desire. "Jake," I said, "what happened tonight wasn't just about you figuring yourself out. It was about both of us connecting in a way that felt natural and right. I wasn't just helping you experiment. I was sharing something real with someone I care about. Really, really. I've enjoyed every moment of tonight, not because I was helping you discover something about yourself, but because being with you felt amazing. You felt amazing. Jake smiled, the first completely relaxed smile I'd seen from him all evening. So you'd want to do this again? I'd want to do a lot more than just this again, I admitted. I'd want to see what it might look like to actually be together, not just as friends who occasionally hook up, but as something more. Like dating. Like dating. Like being in a relationship.
Really?
Like seeing if what we have here can grow into something even better. Jake's smile widened. I'd like that too. I'd like that a lot, actually. We talked for another hour about what it might mean to transition from friendship to something romantic, about the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead.
Yeah.
Jake was thoughtful and honest about his concerns, particularly about being new to relationships with men and not wanting to hurt me in the process of figuring things out.
Yeah.
I don't have experience with this, he said. I don't know all the things I should know about being in a relationship with a man. What if I mess it up? You'll learn, I said simply.
You will
We'll
learn.
learn together. Relationships are about figuring things out as you go, regardless of the genders involved. And you're okay with being patient
Yeah, teamwork make a dream work.
while I figure it out? Jake, I've been your friend for years. I know who you are as a person, and I know you're worth being patient with. Besides, this isn't just about you figuring things out. It's about both of us figuring out how to be together in this new way. As the night grew later, we eventually fell asleep wrapped around each other. When I woke up the next morning, Jake was still there, still holding me, and the reality of what had changed between us settled in fully. Jake stirred as I moved, opening his eyes and immediately smiling when he saw me. Good morning, he said softly. Good morning. How are you feeling? Jake stretched slightly, considering the question. Different, he said. But good different. Like I finally understand something about myself that I've been missing. Any regrets? None, Jake said without hesitation. Last night was incredible. You were incredible. I feel like I finally know who I really am. We spent the morning talking more about what we wanted moving forward, making plans for our first official date, and simply enjoying the new dynamic between us.
Minute.
Jake was clearly excited about this new chapter in his life, but he was also thoughtful about making sure we both felt comfortable with the pace of change. I want to do this right, he said as we made breakfast together. I want to be a good partner to you,
Breakfast.
not just someone who's figuring himself out at your expense. You're already being a good partner, I assured him. You're communicating, you're considerate, and you're honest about what you're feeling. That's what matters most. As Jake prepared to leave later that morning, he pulled me close for another kiss. This one was different from the passionate kisses of the night before. It was tender and affectionate, the kind of kiss that spoke of genuine care and the promise of more to come. Thank you, he said against my lips. For last night, for being patient with me, for helping me figure this out. Thank you for trusting me with something so important, I replied. And for being brave enough to explore this part of yourself. Jake smiled and kissed me once more before heading toward the door. I'll call you later about dinner plans. I'll be waiting. After he left, I sat on my couch thinking about everything that had happened. In the span of one evening, my best friend had become something much more significant. Jake had discovered a fundamental truth about himself, and I had been privileged to be part of that discovery. The future felt full of possibilities and questions. We would have to navigate the transition from friendship to romance, help Jake adjust to being in a relationship with a man, and figure out how to build something lasting together. But as I thought about the passion and connection we'd shared, the honesty and vulnerability Jake had shown, and the genuine care we felt for each other, I felt optimistic about what lay ahead. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. Can't stop thinking about last night.
Oh.
Can't wait to see you again tonight. I smiled and typed back. Same here. Tonight can't come soon enough. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew we would face them together. Jake had found the courage to question everything he thought he knew about himself, and in doing so, he had opened the door to something beautiful between us. The curiosity that had brought him to my apartment had transformed into something much deeper and more meaningful. As I went about my day, I found myself thinking about the transformation I'd witnessed in Jake. The nervous, uncertain man who had arrived at my door had left as someone more confident and self-aware. He had faced his questions head-on and found answers that clearly felt right to him. That evening, Jake arrived for our dinner with flowers and a nervous smile. I know it's probably silly since we've known each other for years, but I wanted to do this properly, he said, handing me the bouquet. It's not silly at all, I said, genuinely touched by the gesture. It's sweet. Over dinner, Jake told me more about his journey of self-discovery, about the signs he'd ignored over the years, and the relief he felt at finally understanding himself. I keep thinking about all the times I felt like something was missing in my relationships with women, he said. I always thought it was just that I hadn't found the right person yet. But now I realize it wasn't about finding the right woman. It was about accepting that maybe women weren't right for me at all. That must have been a difficult realization. It was scary, Jake admitted, but also liberating. Like I finally have permission to want what I actually want instead of what I thought I was supposed to want. And what do you want? Jake reached across the table and took my hand. I want you. I want this. I want to see how good we can be together.
Oh,
The sincerity in his voice and the warmth in his eyes made it clear that this wasn't just residual excitement from a new experience. Jake had thought seriously about what he wanted, and he had chosen me, chosen us. As we walked back to my apartment after dinner, Jake seemed more relaxed and confident than I'd ever seen him. He held my hand openly, kissed me goodnight at my door without any of the previous night's hesitation, and made plans for the weekend with the enthusiasm of someone genuinely excited about the future. I love how this feels, he said as we stood close together outside my door. I love how we feel together. I love it too, I replied, meaning it completely. I know I still have a lot to learn about being in a relationship with a man, Jake said, but I want to learn it all with you. We have plenty of time, I assured him. There's no rush. Jake smiled and kissed me once more, a kiss full of promise and affection. I'll see you tomorrow. You'll see me tomorrow. As I watched him walk away, I reflected on the remarkable transformation that had taken place over just 2 days. Jake had gone from questioning his sexuality to confidently pursuing a relationship with me. He had faced his uncertainty with courage and honesty, and in doing so, had discovered not just a new aspect of his sexuality, but a deeper understanding of who he was as a person. The days that followed were filled with the excitement and discovery that comes with any new relationship, but with the added dimension of Jake's ongoing journey of self-acceptance. He approached every new experience with enthusiasm and wonder, from our first public appearance as a couple to the intimate moments we shared in private. I can't believe I lived so long without knowing this part of myself, Jake said one evening as we lay together after making love. I feel like I'm finally complete. You were always complete, I told him. You just needed time to recognize all the parts of yourself. Maybe, Jake agreed. But I definitely needed you to help me see it. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. But I'm glad I figured it out with you. As weeks turned into months, Jake continued to grow more comfortable with his identity and our relationship. He came out to his family and close friends, faced some challenges and received some support, and gradually built a life that felt authentic to who he really was. I never thought I'd be this happy, he told me one day as we walked through the park near my apartment. I never knew it was possible to feel this right about everything. How do you feel about the person you were before? I asked, curious about how he viewed his past self. Jake considered the question thoughtfully. I don't regret who I was or the experiences I had, he said. But I do feel sorry for him. He was trying so hard to be someone he wasn't, and he was missing out on something beautiful because he was too scared to ask the right questions. And now I ask all the questions, Jake said with a grin, and I'm not afraid of the answers anymore. Our relationship continued to deepen and grow stronger. Jake proved to be as thoughtful and committed a partner as he had been a friend, bringing the same loyalty and care to our romantic relationship that had made our friendship so valuable. I used to think that figuring out you're not straight later in life meant you'd missed out on something, Jake said during one of our many long conversations about his journey. But now I think maybe I just needed to be ready. Maybe I needed to be mature enough and secure enough in myself to handle this kind of self-discovery. Do you think you would have been ready earlier? Honestly, probably not. I think I needed to go through everything I went through to become the person who could recognize these feelings.
wow.
And act on them. I needed to become the person who could be brave enough to risk our friendship for the chance at something more. Looking back on that first night when Jake had arrived at my door with his questions and uncertainty, I was amazed at how much had changed and how much had stayed the same. We were still the same people who had been friends for years, but we had also become something new together, something neither of us had expected but both of us treasured. Jake's journey of self-discovery had become our journey together, and what had started as curiosity had grown into something deep and lasting. He had found not just a new understanding of his sexuality, but a new understanding of himself, and I have been privileged to be part of that transformation. Thank you, Jake said to me one evening as we sat together on the same couch where everything had started months earlier. For what? For being brave enough to say yes when I asked for your help. For
Yeah.
being patient while I figured things out. For seeing something in me that I couldn't see in myself.
Oh,
Thank you for trusting me with something so important, I replied. And for being brave enough to ask the questions that mattered. Jake smiled and pulled me closer. I love you, he said, words that had become natural and easy between us. I love you too, I replied, meaning it with every part of myself. What had begun as Jake's curiosity about his sexuality had evolved into a love story neither of us had anticipated but both of us cherished. He had found the courage to question everything he thought he knew about himself, and in doing so, had discovered not just a new aspect of his identity, but a deeper capacity for love and connection than he had ever imagined possible. As we sat together that evening, I thought about the journey we had taken together and the future that lay ahead. Jake had transformed from a man uncertain about his desires into someone confident in his identity and
really?
committed to our relationship.
Yeah.
The curiosity that had brought him to my door had blossomed into something beautiful and lasting. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't been brave enough to explore these feelings? I asked. Jake considered the question seriously. I try not to think about it too much, because it makes me sad to
I was the
imagine.
same way.
I
Yeah.
think I would have spent my whole life feeling like something was missing, never quite understanding what it was.
Yeah.
And now I know exactly what I want and exactly where I belong, Jake said,
Yeah.
kissing my forehead gently. I
Oh,
belong here with you, living authentically as the person I really am. The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Jake had not only discovered his attraction to men, but had embraced it fully, building a life and identity that felt completely authentic to him.
well,
He
really?
had faced his fears, asked difficult questions, and found answers that brought him peace and happiness.
PC, not
I'm proud of
PC.
you, I told him. It takes courage to question fundamental assumptions about yourself, and even more courage to act on what you discover. I couldn't have done it without you, Jake replied.
Yeah.
You made it safe for me to explore and discover. You gave me the space to figure things out without judgment or pressure. You gave yourself permission to grow and change. That's the hardest part. As the evening grew later, we prepared for bed together, a routine that had become natural and comfortable over the months we'd been together. Jake's presence in my life had enriched everything, bringing not
Oh,
just
really?
romance and passion, but also a deeper friendship and partnership than I had ever experienced.
Oh,
I love our life
that's cool.
together, Jake said as we settled into bed. I love who I am when I'm with you. I love who
Oh,
we are together too, I replied, wrapping my arms around him. Do you
oh,
think we'll always be this happy? Jake asked,
oh,
a question that
oh,
spoke to his
oh,
ongoing amazement at the life he had discovered. I think we'll have challenges like any couple, I said honestly. But I also think we have something special. We have
yeah.
friendship and love and honesty and trust.
Visit me,
That's a
not
pretty
visit. Yeah.
solid foundation.
Yeah.
Jake nodded against my shoulder.
Literally.
I never thought I'd find something like this. I never thought I'd find someone who could be my best friend and my partner and my great love all in one person. You didn't
OA
find it, I corrected
one
gently. We created it together. You're right, Jake agreed. We did create it. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. As we drifted off to sleep that night, I reflected on the remarkable journey we had taken together. What had started as Jake's simple statement about being curious had led to a
Yeah.
complete transformation of both our lives. He had discovered not just a new aspect of his sexuality, but a
Yeah.
new understanding of love, partnership, and authentic living. The curiosity that had initially brought Jake to my door had been the beginning of something neither of us could have anticipated. It had required courage from both of us, courage for him to ask difficult questions about himself, and courage for me to support him through that process while opening my own heart to the possibility of love. Looking back, I could see that Jake's journey of self-discovery had been inevitable. The signs had been there for years, the questions had been building, and eventually they had demanded answers. I felt honored to have been part of that process, to have been the person he trusted with his vulnerability and uncertainty. But more than that, I felt grateful for what we had built together. Jake's self-discovery had led to our love story, and that love story had enriched both our lives in ways we were still discovering. We had created something beautiful together, something that honored both who we had been as friends and who we were becoming as partners. The future stretched ahead of us, full of possibilities and promise. Jake had found his authentic self, and together we had found a love that felt both surprising and inevitable, new and eternal. What had begun with curiosity had grown into something that would last a lifetime.
Noah got the call at 6:14 a.m. on a Thursday, while he was still in bed. The kind of call that arrives before the world is fully awake, because bad news has no sense of timing. Marco had been driving home from a night shift when a truck ran a red light on Belmore Street and removed him from Noah's life in approximately 4 seconds. He was 32 years old and had kissed Noah goodbye at 11 p.m. the night before and said he would be home by 6. He was home by 6, just not the way either of them had planned. Noah did not cry at the hospital. He did not cry at the identification, or the paperwork, or the drive home, or the 3 days that followed where people filled his apartment with food he didn't eat and words he couldn't hear. He cried for the first time on day 4 when he found Marco's coffee cup still in the sink unwashed. He slid down against the kitchen cabinet and stayed there for a very long time. The grief was total. It had no edges and no floor. Noah moved through the following weeks like a man underwater, present enough to function, absent enough that nobody could quite reach him. At 6 weeks, he started feeling unwell. He assumed it was grief. Grief does extraordinary things to a body, and he had enough of it to explain almost anything. At 8 weeks, his colleague pulled him aside after a meeting and said quietly that he didn't look right and should see a doctor. Noah said he was fine in the specific tone people use when they are the furthest thing from fine. He went to the doctor on a Friday afternoon, mostly to stop people worrying about him. He left the doctor's office standing very still on the pavement outside for 11 minutes before he could make himself move. Pregnant. 7 weeks.
Wow.
The world tilted completely on its axis, and Noah stood in the middle of the pavement with people moving around him and understood that the last piece of Marco still existed. Inside him. Growing. Completely unaware that its other father was gone. He drove home and sat in the apartment surrounded by Marco's things. His jacket still on the hook. His books still stacked beside the couch. His handwriting still on the notepad by the phone. And pressed both hands flat against his stomach. Nothing felt real except that. The pregnancy was not easy. Grief and a growing body do not coexist gently, and Noah's was proof of that. The exhaustion was crushing, the nausea relentless, the nights long and loud with absence.
It's getting harder every day without you. But the baby is doing well.
Oh.
I hope you know how much I love you.
He talked to Marco every night, out loud in the dark, one hand on his slowly growing belly, telling him everything. What the doctor said, how the baby moved, how terrifying and extraordinary it was to be doing this completely alone. He was not entirely alone. Marco's sister Lucia arrived from Milan at 10 weeks with 2 suitcases and an expression that said she was not leaving until she was ready, and Noah could say absolutely nothing about it. She was right. She filled the apartment with noise and food and the specific kind of love that demands nothing and gives everything, and Noah understood for the first time that he might actually survive this. At 16 weeks, he felt the first movement. He was lying in bed at 2 a.m., unable to sleep, one hand on his now visibly round belly, when something small and deliberate pushed back against his palm. He stopped breathing for a moment. Then he pressed his hand harder against the movement and felt it again. Small, certain, completely alive. And something in him that had been completely dark since 6:14 a.m. on a Thursday morning turned on again. Not fully, not all at once, but enough. The pregnancy transformed him slowly from the inside out. His body changed week by week, his belly growing full and round and undeniable. And with every change came something.
Wow.
He hadn't expected. Not healing exactly, but purpose solid and stubborn and entirely Marco's.
Everything looks perfectly healthy on the scan, Noah. The heartbeat is strong.
That's wonderful news. When can...
At 32 weeks, he packed Marco's jacket away. Not because he was forgetting, because he needed the hook for the baby bag, and Marco, he decided, would have found that completely reasonable. Labor came 3 weeks early on a Sunday morning, without warning or mercy. Lucia drove him to the hospital at 4 a.m. doing speeds that would have terrified Noah under any other circumstances, but felt completely appropriate given the situation. The contractions were savage and relentless, and Noah endured them with the specific ferocity of a man who had already survived the worst thing imaginable and refused to be broken by anything again. Lucia held his hand through every hour of it. She cried enough for both of them, which freed Noah to focus entirely on the monumental task of bringing the last piece of her brother into the world. At 9:47 a.m. on a Sunday morning, after 11 hours that tested every limit Noah had, a cry filled the
Come on, you can do it. Come on.
delivery room.
Come on, you can do it.
Sharp, furious, completely certain of itself. A boy, dark hair, Marco's nose, Noah's eyes. Noah held his son against his chest and shook from somewhere so deep inside himself that it had no name. Lucia pressed her face against the doorframe and wept openly and without embarrassment, because some moments are too large for composure. He named him Matteo Marco, after his father, obviously, after the man who drove home on a Thursday morning and never arrived and somehow, impossibly, still did. Matteo grew up knowing everything. Noah never hid a single thing from him. Not the accident, not the grief, not the extraordinary and heartbreaking miracle of his own existence.
Oh.
He grew up knowing that his father had loved his other father so completely that the love left something behind even after he was gone. He grew up knowing that a heartbeat is not just biological. Sometimes it is the universe refusing to let something end. Sometimes it arrives at 7 weeks, in a doctor's office, in the body of a man who thought he had already lost everything. And sometimes it is enough to bring someone back from the dark.
Yeah.
Not all the way, not perfectly, but back.
Yeah.
That was enough. That was more than enough.
Oh. This one is Legends.
Step in the chat, in black, got receipts from hell. Trauma queen, nah, I'm the trauma dealer. Truth so raw, make a snake turn healer. Mic in my hand with a hit list long. You faked your life while I wrote your song. No chill, no filter, mask ripping deeper. Lights out, baby, it's the low-cal reaper. Spill that tea, call it out. Think you're caught when the reaper's out. Say my name,
I'm gonna
say
play
it
now.
loud. Dolly don't play, she calls the crowd. One by one, they fall asleep. But secrets don't die, I dig too deep.
I'm
Cameras on, it's getting real. Local reapers send you deal. Sugar and Sprite, I came for your sins. Frosted lies on your frosting skin. Box of receipts and a glaze of doom. Leave sprinkles of truth all over your tomb. You beg for sweet, I serve you right. Bite the donut, find what you forgot. I walk with Ali, both hands on the wheel. Two reapers ride in the coffin squeal. You wanted the smoke. Now you got the fire.
No, you got the fire.
Don't start no
Don't start
drama.
no drama.
Unless you're ready for
You're like you ready for the smoke. You got tea, oh yes.
Think you're caught when the
When the
reaper's
reaper's
out.
out.
Say your name, say it loud. Sally and Josh, they draw the crowd. One by one, they fall asleep. But secrets don't die, we dig too deep. Cameras roll, the deal is sealed. Local reapers and the real. Reap what you
post?
Zalinos. You talk,
TikTok.
I show.
I saw.
Josh brings to the donut, reapers in control.
Let's go do St. Dose, so let's do a drawback.
Okay, bitches, how we all go. It's the queens of this mother effing law cow show. Tina about to eat a bitch if she get out of line, though. Becky gonna cry, she be losing her mind, yo. Wah, 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 bitches screaming over petty shit. Tina telling Becky to spread for bread, bitch. What is the definition of a low cow? Let's get some recognition for these hoes now. It's the queens on your screens, and at any moment these bitches will throw down. What is the definition of a low cow? Let's get some recognition for these hoes now. It's the queens on your screen, and at any moment these bitches will throw down. The low cow queens.
Tina, Becky and Tina.
Becky lied, Becky cried.
Cow Queens.
Look at Queen.
Cow Queens.
Look at Queen.
Please, Tina, Becky and Tina.
Becky lied.
Becky
cried.
Becky lied.
Becky lied. Becky cried.
Becky lied.
Becky lied.
Low cow
Low
queens.
Queens.
King.
Low cow.
Bro.
Well, you remember about 3 weeks back, I said that I likely could potentially have a form of cancer. Turns out I got a rare blood cancer called polycythemia vera. You know me and my dark sense of humor. When my doctor told me all of this, I said, if I die of cancer, doc, instead of my morbid obesity, which I've been working so hard on for the last 30 years, I'm going to be pissed. And the other good news is it might just give me a stroke or a heart attack, which is how I was going out anyway.
Well, Boogie
lied.
He lied
Too many times.
He said he had cancer, but it was actually a lie. Said King didn't pay him. Said he was going broke. Was offered $70K to show his medical records. Said Boogie choked. Boogie, boogie, why you lying to yourself? Oh, boogie, 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 you can go to hell. Just come clean and be honest. We won't ever judge, but if you keep on lying, we'll pull the plug. You fat motherfucker, just tell the truth. Boogie, please, just tell the truth. Well, it took some poking and prying, and Boogie sure kept on lying. But eventually the truth came out flying. No thanks to Boogie's lack for trying. Keemstar called the police like a snitch complying, telling them about that bitch plans of unaliving. But that was just a manipulation. But Boogie stating his stipulations, and he'll stay alive if Keem don't talk about the sibling situation. But fuck that, this is Keem's narration for the Law Cow Nation. So write your notation and quotations of the Keem's demonstration. Oh, boogie, boogie, why you lying to yourself? Oh, boogie, 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 you can go to hell. Just come clean and be honest. We won't ever judge, but if you keep on lying, we'll pull the plug. You fat motherfucker, just tell the truth. Boogie, boogie, why you lying to yourself? Oh, boogie, 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 you can go to hell. Just come clean. And be honest, we won't ever judge, but if you keep on lying, we'll pull the plug. You fat motherfucker. He got a tattoo of liar written on his face. Team welcomed him back with a warm embrace. The fans got pissed off, and rightfully so. King unilaterally said he could come back, even though the viewers poll said he had to go. Oh, boogie, boogie, why you lying to yourself?
Okay, why you lying to yourself?
Boogie, 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 you can go to hell. Just come clean
Come
and
clean.
be honest. We won't ever judge, but if you keep on lying, we'll pull
We
the
put the
plug.
plug.
You fat motherfucker, just tell the truth. Boogie, please, just tell the truth.
You know, because when we put this show together, I thought, you know,
You crushed it.
I backed you, Dan, I backed you.
That have been supporting the show. I made this little ditty for you. Can you hear that?
No.
Turn your headphones up. You can't hear that?
No, it cuts in.
All right. Let me from the top. This is a good one. Let me do share screen.
Yeah.
That'll work.
All right. This is a good one.
Sun's out, shining in the big blue sky.
She's got a swagger, and she's walking by.
Walking by.
Living
Hey,
large,
Lord,
like she's the queen of the show. This summer's
It's a
hers.
Mars.
She's
Keep
breaking
looking
down
down the door.
It's a
It's a fire go summer. No one can deny.
82 super chatted $20.
She's
I was
You
fat and I
need-
became anorexic.
Yeah.
She's
The blind eye.
dancing in
The
the
scene.
loving everybody.
Anybody.
Fat girl
Fire go summer.
It's
It's no time to shine.
She's got shades
There's
on,
one.
sipping
Keeping living
lemonade,
it.
laughing so loud, making waves in the shade. Confidence glowing like a fire in the sun. The summer anthem, oh, it's
Oh, it's
just
begun.
begun. It's a
The fire go summer.
no one can
No one can
deny.
deny.
She's on in the
You got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's
The
flying,
blind eye.
dancing in
The
the
scene.
loving
Loving
everybody.
everybody.
Fat
Fire go summer.
It's a
No time to shine.
No rules to follow, no care in mind. She's the
The
heartbeat
OP of this summertime.
Roller skates spinning, she's out on the floor. Fat
Fire go summer. You could ask for more.
It's a
Fire
fat
go
girl
summer.
No one can
No one can
deny.
deny.
She's on in
The
the
innings.
yeah.
Yeah.
She's
The
flying,
blind eye.
dancing
The
in
scene in the scene.
loving
Loving
everybody.
everybody. Fire go summer.
It's a
No time to shine.
You can't believe Jordy hated this job. This job is fun.
That's the number
That's
one
a
hit.
fucking bop, dude. That's a bop. I love
That's
that.
good.
Fire go
That's how you
summer.
make songs, bro. That's how you make songs. All right, well, guys, we had a lot of fun. Let's talk about a YouTuber who got murdered.
Oh,
What?
Yeah, I saw this on Drama Alert.
What?
Murdered.
Murder.
Vibe?
Murdered.
I'm not too in the same year, so you didn't redirect it to phone let me see, you didn't redirect it to Donathan Place. So is last one update. Go and second mod and told him as he what's up, and so go inside the phone stream. Go and second mod and drop a like if you like, and comment down below if you want to see more streams like this one. And subscribe if you're new, and click the bell so you can be notified when I upload and go live in the mod. Bye. Wow. Oh, and I did a survey call up 9.5. Yeah. So I'm bye.